Yeah, done. All right, recording. Fantastic. So, guys, welcome to the call today. We won't start late because in this business, we're either early or we're late. There's no on time. If you get there on time, it means you're actually late by the time you get admitted into the room. So, welcome everyone who's joined us. Welcome, buddy. The smile's disappeared now. There it is.
Yeah.
It's $1 million smile.
Hey, Phil. Hey, mate.
Hey, bro. How are you?
I'm doing
Good
great.
to see you. I did like your picture, but it's really nice to see you live.
You can see the picture, but you can't hear the voice. It's the voice.
Yeah, I know. I miss it all, mate. I miss it all.
We miss you too.
Did you want me to go through the promotions?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Great idea, man. Go for it.
So really, it was just a reminder for a few people just to remind them that we're in the middle of that staycation volume promotion. So 500 volume points each week for the 4 weeks. So we finished week 2 and we're into week 3, which is the towel, the round beach mat. And so, being focused on those is a really, really good way to build the business towards your 2.5, because, if you're doing at least 500 volume points week in, week out, that's going to get you there. And then obviously if you do the 500 4 weeks in a row, you're also going to qualify for that tent, the camping tent. So that's amazing. Also, the thing that I wanted to touch on quickly for myself and just through history is that the week after Christmas is really the one that we're leading into now, is always my biggest week in not just the month of December, but the year. Whilst a lot of people switch off during Christmas, and they say, people are out partying, that's actually legitimately the biggest week in the year for me. Many people are starting to focus on goals, which I'm sure Buddy will talk about with next week's call, but they're not waiting until the new year. They're talking about them starting now, and then they get that rude shock on the 26th or the 27th after they've had a couple of days of partying, and they want to reach out to somebody, and we've got to be there in the market ready to go. So, guys, be ready and fired up from just after Christmas, because people are really, really going to be focused on who can they go to for a solution in regards to their health or their wealth. So, all right, what I'm going to do, I might leave the rest of the promotions for now, because people are jumping on and they've jumped on to hear the man of the hour of our power, the power hour. And I want to start by saying that Phil has been an absolute amazing friend and a mentor to some degree, right? Not just in Australia, but around the world. I remember last year we were over in Hong Kong, and I was sitting in my room, and Phil rings me up and he goes, "What are you doing, mate?" And I'm like, "Oh, not much. I'm just actually typing away. I was doing some work on my computer." And he's like, "How about we go to Disneyland?" And it was hilarious to think that we can do that in this business, and he's kind of kept us under his wing, and he's always kind of reached out and said g'day from time to time. So I just want to say thanks to him, because he keeps me propped up from time to time when I'm having lows, as we often do. But for those who don't know Phil, got to Get Team in 6 months, I believe. Is that right, Phil? Yeah, millionaire team in 2.5 years. Been in the business for about 7 or 8 years now. Absolutely on fire at the moment. So I'm not going to hold up any longer. I'm going to introduce Philip Haydon, the amazing millionaire team member from Melbourne. Welcome, Phil.
Remember the whole name. Thanks, mate. Yeah. Philip. It's usually I only get called Philip by my parents and my wife when I'm doing something wrong. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the welcome, Ralph, and everybody else as part of this team that's putting this call together. I think sometimes when we're brand new, we don't realise just how amazing it is that the leadership put on these sorts of calls. And one of the things I like the most about our business, our particular business called Herbalife Nutrition, is the people that are doing the calls, or you see on stage, or you listen to, are the ones that are actually doing what they say they're doing. And I think that's kind of unique. A lot of the times in workplaces, we get a manager or a boss sometimes standing up at the front of the room or the front of the crowd, and they're sort of having a chat, but it's clear that they're not doing what they say they're doing. I think there's an expression that leaders have all the authority and the workers have all the context. That means you know, like us distributors, our distribution base, which we're all made up of in our 90 countries, are the ones that really are on the ground doing the work, helping and serving clients and customers and distributors every single day. So yeah, I probably should introduce myself properly for those of you who haven't met me or haven't heard my story or haven't heard my story for a while. Obviously, my background is pretty varied. I've worked since I was very, very young, but the stuff that people know me about, I was a personal trainer. I did everything in the personal training industry. I worked in leisure centers, boot camps, partnerships, worked at a bodybuilding gym, worked as a rental-based trainer, had rental-based trainers working for me. And then I became a fitness director, a personal training manager, and built the largest team of rental-based trainers in the country. We topped out at about 45, I think it was, which is pretty good. I've got another picture of the actual board, the profile boards of the personal trainers, which I'll pull out one day for everybody, just to legitimize what I talk about. So yeah, it was actually, I was doing that. I was doing trek leading. I used to take people across the Kokoda track in Papua New Guinea and base camp in Nepal as a trek leader. And then I was doing and getting ready for my second black belt in martial arts and doing a bit of cage fighting as well, which is kind of like my yoga. It's, I was just doing a lot of stuff. I had little kids and a wife, and, so you would think that, or I thought that somebody who was doing as much as I was doing should be, tired as I felt. So my job as a fitness director was really to look at trends, to see where business was going, and, trying to find a structured way that personal trainers could make an income. And I was always on the lookout for courses, speakers, and stuff like that for the team, so they could hear from, people that weren't me. And so I noticed that one of my personal trainers happened to be a friend, was coming in a little bit earlier, staying a little bit later, being more productive, retaining clients, which was really important to me. Retention's still very important and relevant to our business right now. But I just noticed he just had a bit of a different attitude. And, one afternoon he was using what I now know as an ultimate pack in the back room where the personal trainers hang out. And I said, hey, Matt, what is it that you're using? And I do joke, but I want to preface everything. I'm so entirely grateful for my sponsor. Nobody on this call, I think, has ever met him, and probably wouldn't have even known his name had I not mentioned it. But I'm entirely grateful for the opportunity. And what he proceeded to give was probably the worst explanation of Herbalife nutrition that I've heard. But he said a magic word, which was energy. And he didn't know that I felt like I felt. But, I was doing all these things. And I just said at the time, I don't care if I have to put it in me, on me, or up me, just give it to me, And so I basically walked my sponsor over to an ATM and got the money for full retail for 2 ultimate packs. And which is an important note too for later on, so full retail first every time. It's the way to start, so people actually appreciate the discount that they get. So yeah, I started using the products, and one of the key things too is I got home, showed my wife, and she wasn't interested in having the nutrient support. So all of these are everything that I say, little lessons along the way. So sometimes the people closest to you are the ones that sort of can disappoint you or judge you the most, and sometimes not support you, which we'll get to a little bit later on. And so the other thing too that my sponsor did or didn't do was follow me up at all. And so I just fumbled my way through my ultimate pack. Now it was very normal in the industry to have nutrient support, supplementation and stuff. So it was no big deal, but I was fumbling my way through an ultimate pack. And then I started fumbling my way through the second ultimate pack. So about 6 weeks in, I hadn't had a result, but then one day I woke up and it was just like the lights had gone on. I felt fantastic, thought everything was cruisy. I'd fixed whatever issue was going on, and, sort of away I went, just sort of happily about my business. I went, fast forward just a little bit, I went to the doctor just for a regular checkup and needed to get a couple of things, ultrasound, a sort of swollen neck and a sore shoulder. Obviously from doing martial arts is a very normal thing, I would have thought. Did a blood test, just a once a year sort of checkup-y thing. And then went about my day. I get a phone call at work, and it's put through to my office, and they said, "Excuse me, Mr. Haydon, which is always a bit of an indicator, I guess, in hindsight. Could you come down to the doctor's office, and it might be a good idea if you bring your wife. And so, you know, off I trot down to the doctor's office and was promptly told, quite bluntly told, that it looks like I had cancer. So that was kind of the reason why I was feeling, you know, lacking energy. But something that always impresses upon me is that I got my result before I knew that there was something going on. I felt good. So going into this diagnosis that completely flipped my life upside down, I was feeling good. So I'm all about science-based stuff, and it wasn't a placebo effect. It was a legitimate thing that I got to experience and feel before any of this stuff became, and then it became really important that I fed my body well with all of the nutrients that our wonderful company gets to provide us. So during that time, my first question to my sponsor was, okay, so I paid this much money. Can I get these products at a discount if I refer people to you? I was just straight away into trying to get my products for nothing. That's what I was trying. And then I said, is there a way that I can, you know, use these products for nothing? They make me feel so good, you know? And then he introduced me to somebody who does the business. So this is also a good point. Matt already had given me an explanation that was kind of a bit fumbly. It luckily sort of stumbled across a word that I needed to hear, but it was probably above and beyond him at that time, probably is still to this day, to then get me to that next level, that next step. And so that's why three-way calls or speaking to a sponsor or a mentor that you know, like and trust, to try and move somebody forward. So it's something to remember for a little bit later on. So I had that conversation with somebody, and one of the things that really impressed upon me, especially given my diagnosis, were two important things. One, there was a spectacular coming up, which we call the January kickoff, just so you know the vernacular. And the other thing was, do you know this business can be a willable asset? So I want you to think about that, you know, like a house or like, you know, whatever financial portfolio you build up, our ID number, your unique ID number, identification number within Herbalife Nutrition is something that you can pass on. So whatever you build, you can, you know, help, you know, in my case, change the working class legacy of my family, you know, working super duper hard. There's a lot of people that do that and making far less than they're worth. You know, I think that happens. Yes, there's a lot of people unemployed, but there's a huge amount of people that are underemployed, which means they get paid less than what they're doing. And so we can speak to pretty much all of that. So I want you just to think for a second, those of you on the call and those of you listening a little bit later on, if sitting here right now, just take 10 seconds to stop and have a bit of a think about this. If you got a phone call like that, do you or are you in the position to be able to provide for your family if things don't work out? Have you done enough or left a legacy or a way that you can help support your family if you're not around? And that's, in my case, if I didn't work, that was it. Like if I passed away, there goes my wage, there goes the extra support in the household. So I went to this spectacular. So I went to an event, and, you know, it completely changed my life. Like I knew that I could only affect a certain amount of people as a personal trainer. I knew that. So I got personal trainers working for me. And I knew, once again, we reached capacity pretty quickly of how many people we could support. And then indirectly through me, we grew this large team of personal trainers, which then in turn helped a lot of people. And I thought, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. But there's a moment, sometimes if you're lucky enough, you get to discover what you're meant to do in your life. And I stood up on stage because, you know, we qualified world team and, you know, done all of this stuff. And in 30 seconds, I just gave my testimonial. It was probably the worst testimonial that I've done. Blurted out a couple of things, told everybody that I'd just been given this diagnosis and that I would see them in a couple of months at an event called an extravaganza in Singapore. And the place erupted. You know, people that I'd never really met, probably out of the 11 or 1,200 people there, 1,195 people I didn't know. And I realized in that 30 seconds that I'd made more of an impact in that 30 seconds than I'd made in my entire health and fitness journey up to that point. And so I was all in. There's obviously a bit more to that story, but, you know, I won't take up too much of my time just going on about that. But when I did, so I'd been in the business for 3 months by that stage. And in the next 2.5 months, the 2 weeks after that event and the 2 months following that, we went global expansion team. So it was fumbling around, not knowing what to do, and then going to one event, and less than 90 days later, I qualified active world team and global expansion team in the same month. So when I first went to my next major event that year in Australia, they were just giving me pins in my hands. I came off the stage and they were just giving me pins. My supervisor pin, my active supervisor pin, my world team pin, my active world team pin, and my get team pin all at once in my first 6 months of the business. So, it was moving pretty fast, but I had a really intentional why. And we talk about, your why should make you cry. And when that is said, I think sometimes everybody thinks, or by obligation thinks, it should be their family. But I want you to be really honest with yourself. And that's all you ever have to be honest with, truly, is yourself. Like at the end of the day, have I given my best effort? But with this, what is my why? Now, it might be providing a very, nice lifestyle for yourself, or it could be for loved ones, or it could be that car, or it could be the holidays. It could be anything, but it has to be something that is so big and motivating outside of you that when you feel down, or you feel blue, or you're sick, or something's going on in your life, it is big enough to drag you forward into that day to do something. And so that's what a why is. So if you haven't defined what a why is, now you have the definition of what it should feel like, not what you think, what you feel like, what gets your heart pumping a little bit faster, a little bit stronger in your chest. And then, have you actually written that down? Have you written it down somewhere, or made a mental note about that? The other thing too that I mentioned with going along to that event is that you can tell a victim because they love entertainment, and you can tell an A-grade player because they love education. And so I think sometimes you've got to work out, which one are you? You are, a victim, somebody who loves to be entertained, who likes to be, and really all we're doing when we're liking to be entertained is we're keeping ourselves distracted under the fake premise that we're busy, too busy to do anything. And we know that famous saying, and one that I use a lot, when you say you don't have time, it's not a statement of fact, it's a statement of priority. So it's a really important thing. If I told you there was a new Game of Thrones coming out, they're going to extend the story for another season, I think that probably 90% of people on a call would make time to see that, or pick whatever favorite TV show or movie that you've got. And I think a lot of the times it's where we prioritize our time. So if you say you don't have time to build this business, honestly, with respect, love and respect, I'm not judging, I'm just reporting. You're probably incorrect. You're probably kidding yourself a little bit. And that's okay, because you need to look yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and make that judgment call for yourself. The other thing that victims do is they blame their conditions. So we've had a very, very unique year where we've had an unprecedented event that has affected us globally on lots of different levels. And the one thing that I can report, legitimately report, is that Herbalife Nutrition has had record months in growth in every market, in every one of the 90 countries that we're involved in, every single month during this time. It's considered an essential food. It's something that people can, operate in. We have no limitations in terms of delivery to our customer base because we use a private courier service. So, I'm sure some of you guys may have ordered something during this time, and good old Australia Post or equivalent in whatever country you're listening to this went into meltdown, and it took weeks to normally get what takes days. So it's something that I really noticed. A couple of things I tend to notice things, I guess, that other people can't. Now, going back to my story, in that first 12-month period, I had 6.5 hour surgery. My first surgery, it was far more extensive when they opened me up. It was all through my throat. It had wrapped around my vocal cords, and so when when they were doing the surgery, one of the vocal cords stopped working. It still doesn't work today. I ended up having to learn how to speak again. I had to go through speech pathology and all that. Now, remember, that first 2 weeks leading into my surgery, we'd done a month of global expansion team. Now, if you don't know what that is, I suggest you look in your manuals first, try and work it out, and then get clarification or solidify, concretize that information with your sponsor or a mentor. Okay, so try and learn it for yourself first, and then just, talk to somebody and see if you've understood it correctly. It's the best way to learn, in my opinion. Doing and then trying to repeat it to someone else. And I want you to remember that term, concretize. So when you teach somebody, when you try and verbally say something that you've learned, you embed that information, those sets of words into your mind, into your DNA. So as a Herbalife operative, distributor, it's really important they have lots of sets of words for lots of different types of people. So it's not just a one size fits all. And we might talk about that a little bit later on if we get some time. So the second month, I'm put in an isolation ward. So I have to, if somebody comes up in a suit, big lead box, puts a couple of, tablets with a nuclear symbol on, says, swallow these, please, Mr. Haydon. You put them in. They say, please don't vomit because it'll burn your esophagus and we'll have to give it to you all over again. Then they leave the room, shut the door and put a chain across and lock it. And then shoot, put the big radioactive symbol there. And so you've got a room that's quite big. And then every time they have to deliver food or something, you have to go and stand over the other side of the bed until they're 10 meters away, 5 meters away. It's kind of crazy. The first night's the toughest. You feel like you're being scraped from the inside out with a butter knife. And, you spend 4 days where they come in every day and do one of those Geiger counter things. And then when they deem you to be at least, at least radioactive enough to leave the hospital, somebody had to drive my car over and leave my car there because they couldn't stay with me in the car driving home because I would irradiate them. So it's a very isolating, very lonely place. Now with no voice, and those of, Mark and Buddy and Ralph who know me, know I'm hopeless with social media and the phone in general. So with my limited skills, my ability to text, which is very, very slow, and no voice, I did my completed my second month of global expansion team on the drive home from the hospital. So, and then the third month went back to full-time work and sooner than I was supposed to. And yeah, we did our third month. The third month was probably the most difficult out of the three, and I was back to my normal life. So it was really very interesting. And then, the biggest thing that I probably did, was go over to America, learn about the Fit Club, Fit Camp, that people know and adapted it to the Australian marketplace, which was really, I think, eventually a bit misrepresented and misunderstood. The Fit Club as a premise is a member development system. It's not a community service that we provide. It's something that can be amazing to build communities, and its purpose and function was to develop a person through a pipeline so when they come out, they're an effective Herbalife coach, not a Fit Club coach. And so that's something to keep in mind. Like, what's your purpose for the activity that you are undertaking? It's a really important thing. Are you busy or are you effective? So I'm an effective member. What I do, I want to have an impact with the time because I value time above all things. And, the time I have on the planet, the time I have with my kids, the time I have with my wife, the time I have with my Herbalife business, time is the commodity that I use. How can I be more valuable in the time that I have? Is it worthwhile? For example, when we could do that, I would get my car washed. It would take 2 hours and polished and stuff. I would be able to have 2 hours walking around the shops with my kids. But in that time, I could make far more money to not only afford the washing of the car, but also accelerate my business. So it's just your perception and the personality of which the way you look at income. So remember, poor is a mindset. Poor is not a condition. Poor is not something that you're stuck being. I can speak from firsthand experience. I grew up wearing clothes from St. Vincent de Paul. So when I met my wife, I had less than nothing. So you can build yourself up into quite a strong position. On what you call a MIL 7.5 member now, that MIL 7.5 in terms of a level, it's about 150,000 organizational volume in your front three levels. We do more than that every single month. It's a significant income, certainly a lifestyle income. We make between $25,000 and $35,000 a month profit every single month. You'll notice I use the word profit, not just a number, because a lot of people have very fancy numbers that they can throw around, but it's how much do you have in your back pocket after your expenses. So I think that's a really important thing, and something that, you know, I'm just talking my royalty check. I'm not talking my retail profit. You know, so that's probably, you can add a couple of, you know, a few extra $1,000, you know, on top of that. So, you know, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool gig. Now, remember, I started, my sponsor didn't know what he was saying, or it didn't follow me up. And so I learned what to say, but didn't follow anybody up. So I went to supervisor when the marketing plan allowed it. I did 4,000 volume points all by myself. So I had 24 ultimate packs, and I'd redraw money off our home loan to get to that position, because I knew 50% discount was far better than 25% discount, and therefore the profit margin. So I got really stuck in, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I sold my first 24, and I use the word sell. I sold my first 24 ultimate packs in 4 days after getting them. But the reason I say sold is because I didn't follow any of them up. I use the term help now. I help and I serve my clients now. When I used to sell product when I first started in the first couple of months, got very, very clear that I'd made a big blue. You know, got a whole bunch of people who probably had a mixed and matched experience like I did. And not everybody's, you know, built like I am, you know. And, you know, when I first started, I had a lot of negativity, a lot. And I won't go into it on this call, but, you know, imagine having a gym chain that you work at, write a memo with your name on it saying that you are welcome to be in that club. And if you're seen in that club, then I'm to be removed, because I signed an ID in Herbalife. It's incredible. So if you think and match that up with your own story, it's not a competition, but there are levels to the negativity that we can experience. But I think for me, it was something that really probably created character when it comes to this business, rather than be a negative, you know, especially in hindsight. And the thing, guys, it's wonderful to have hindsight when you're making, you know, the income that I spoke about. But who are you when you're not making anything? Who are you when you're starting out? Who are you when the chips are down? Who are you when you're a supervisor for 2 or 3 or 4 years? Who are you then? Is it really your mission to set yourself free financially? Is it really something that you want for yourself to make a few extra $1,000 a month? You know, then you go back to your why. And if your why, for me, it was my kids. It was, you know, something that was outside of myself. When I was racked with pain, when I was, you know, nauseated, which I felt like constantly, when I was swollen and sore, you know, I thought about my little baby daughters, and it was enough for me to, you know, jolt myself to do things that I never thought, and even look back on now and think, how on earth did I do that? So yes, we've got the benefit now. And other thing I have now is the benefit of hindsight. There's a lot of things that I would have done differently. The first thing, guys, and something that was mentioned by Mark Hughes himself, is always leave people with their dignity intact. So if you haven't written that down, you don't know that word for word, I suggest that that's something that you learn. Always leave people with their dignity intact. And I want to explain it and quantify that by saying this: hurt people hurt others. So you've got to be prepared. It's not about people hurting your feelings. It's about being big enough that when they hurt your feelings, not if, when, because it will happen, let's be real, you need to feel hurt, but not try and hurt them, make them feel small, correct them, hit them over the head with science. It's really about leaving them with their dignity intact. So at that point, when they hit an area in their life where they need extra income or to feel a little bit better, they can come back to you. Go, you know what, I was a bit out of line, but you were so respectful of my position. That's the reason why I'm coming back to you now. So always leave people with their dignity intact. It's a very, very important one. And remember that expression, hurt people, hurt others. So if somebody's not being very nice to you, think about where they're coming from. Empathize. Sympathize doesn't have to be okay, but, you know, think about empathy, because it's like anything. You can reframe how you look at any situation into a more positive one. And now, rather than being, it used to be you're either with me or against me. I was very combative when I first started. Now it's like, that must be really tough for you to feel like that. Mm-hmm. And I empathize with that person. I can be a lot more, I just a bit more accommodating and real with the person. And like I said, if you have a bad experience with somebody, you're not going to go back to them for help. But if you're respected and looked after, then I think more often than not, you do. You know, when people do come to that point where they're going to approach you. So, you know, there's no wasted conversations in Herbalife if they're respectful ones. There are no wasted conversations in your life, because you remember Herbalife is not something that defines you. You know, I've had people say, "Oh, you're Herbalife. You know, you do Herbalife." I said, "No, I'm Phil. You know, I'm Phil, the footy coach, and I'm Phil, the husband. I'm Phil, the father, and I'm Phil, your friend or family member. I just happen to market products that are, you know, developed and manufactured by Herbalife International, you know, and so I understand the separation there. And I think that's something that we could probably all be then super proud of who we are and super proud of the products we choose to distribute, because they serve people. Remember, serve and help, because you're actually following them up and caring about their results, truly caring about their results, not, you know, selling them a product. Thank your lucky stars you've sold the product and then do nothing, you know, in terms of following them up. Yeah. So I think one of the things that the guys did want me to mention, I think it's important to mention too, is the position called Active World Team. Now, Active World Team, to me, even now, is probably the hardest to explain. So that means that it takes a little bit of time to digest, which means that you need to go to your manuals and really work it out. Write it out on a piece of paper, and then practice teaching it to your sideline, practice teaching it to your partner, practice teaching it to your upline, somebody who knows that position, and see if your explanation is something that resonates with them. That's a great starting point, because once you get to that point where, once again, you're concretizing that information by explaining it to someone else, teaching it to someone else. The Japanese used to say, in terms of martial arts, to teach is to learn something twice. And that's a really important thing. It's the same thing, concretizing the information. Once you understand the qualifications of Active World Team, you can then go and perform the qualification of Active World Team. So you understand it, you conceptualize it, you concretize that information, and then you can make a plan to achieve that thing, because you understand what you need to do. Like, you really understand what you need to do. And therefore, I believe once you tick those boxes, you are much more likely to hit Active World Team. And more importantly, once again, let's look at the purpose. What is the purpose of becoming Active World Team? Active World Team, you get a mini president's team experience. Yes, you can start to make a bit of a royalty income. That's important. That's the purpose. The purpose is to create and to do a little bit higher volume in that qualification period. Why? What's the purpose of that? The purpose of that is to get more people on the products, recruit more people. Recruiting is not a dirty word. It's something we do all the time. And then we're actually developing business to grow on from there. What people see it as, and that's where they make the mistake, I believe, once again, not judging, just reporting, is that they make Active World Team the destination, rather than a position that you're moving through on the way to your global expansion team. The funny thing about the qualification, without going into too much detail, is you can do 1 month of 10,000 or 2 months of 5,000 volume points. What I like to set my new coaches up with nowadays is a bit of a philosophy where they want to develop a 5,000 volume point a month business. The reason why I want them to do a 5,000 volume point a month business is not for me. Remember, everybody that does Herbalife makes their money for themselves. They keep every dollar that they make. Herbalife International pay us a royalty based on the value and the work that we've put in with a Ralph or a Buddy or a Mark or whoever to get to the position of their goals, moving towards what they want for their lives. Does that kind of make sense, guys? So that's what it's about. So let's look at the purpose. So when somebody goes global expansion team, which is not the destination, remember, it's just a staging point to move forward through the marketing plan, 5,000 volume points is the requirement to get the bonus. So you still get a great check, but to get an extra 2% on your entire business, which is extraordinary. And generally, it's about a 40% increase in your check, which is significant, right? So once again, you've already set yourself up that your worst month is 5,000 volume points, and you are always going to collect your check. And the great thing about doing 5,000 volume points personally is, guess what? We're in a business of duplication. So if your people come in and you're doing 5,000 volume points and that's the standard, and everybody else on these calls and every Tuesday night is doing 5,000 volume points and that's the standard, they come in and they go, oh, well, that's the standard. And then all of a sudden there's, you know, a vast majority of these new coaches coming into your organization and the standard is 5,000 volume points. So I've got to do 5,000 volume points. What we do is even putting that number puts a cap on somebody's potential sometimes, but I think that's a great place to start. I think that's a great place to start because it sets somebody up for success. And when they do qualify to that position, it's like, this is different. Yes, I get to sit in a different position. Yes, I get different experiences by the company. When COVID's not on, they fly you over and have a great experience for the TAB team. But you're also making a significant jump in your income. And then you're like, oh, I can see, you know, now I can really see what's going on, what's really possible for me and my family, or for whatever goals, whatever why you've set yourself. Does that kind of make sense, guys? So that's the whole point. So once again, let's go back to it. Are you being busy or are you being effective? You know, are you pretending like, and, you know, getting wrapped up in your DMOs, posting on social media, you know, doing flyers, doing whatever, thinking chucking a flyer in the letterbox or underneath the windscreen, you know, windscreen wiper of a car is doing something. Doing something is talking to a real living, breathing human being. Now, I want to talk to you about the people that want to move a little bit slower. A little thing that I've sort of set up. Excuse me for 1 second. The one vocal cord thing's working me pretty hard. I have a bottle of aloe a day at minimum in these, and usually have 2 or 3 of these every single day, along with whatever liquid goes into the shakes and the teas that I have. So, you know, hydrate more, guys. If just as an aside, a point, you know, I'm still a personal trainer. It's been 17, 18 years now. So I can't kind of help myself other than give advice. So let's talk about a new person or somebody who's just coming back in. You know, it's something that you can say. So we can refer to people like Mark Hughes and Jim Rohn. We usually suggest they listen to those and they talk about this 10 people a day on the products, 10 people a day in the business and all of that sort of stuff. What I start to do, and I'm going to talk about the reason why in a second, but what I've been doing is go, righto, we talk about the 10 people. What I want you to do is come up with an agreement. Can we come up with an agreement? And the person says yes. Then it's like, these are the goals. I want 2 posts on the team page every single week about something, you know, if it's a personal development quote, not just putting up a tile, what it means to you, what you got out of that personal development quote or video that you watched or PD that you listened to, a YouTube clip, whatever, and just a couple of points. So do that twice a week on the team page, twice a week on the client page, which means that you're consuming the products. It doesn't have to be just Herbalife Nutrition. It can be the food you're eating or the exercise you're doing or, you know, whatever it is. So 2 posts a week. Now, what this is creating is engagement in your page and culture. Culture being a wildly important thing in an organization, a sporting team, whatever it is, right? So those 2 things. Then it's, I want you to get a living, breathing human being on a phone call with me or their sponsor. So a 3-way call, we call them. And there's a thing called tell, show, try, do. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's a really important thing. You tell someone what to do. Then you show them what to do while they're listening. Then you get them to try and do it on a call while you listen and then feed back to them after. It's called celebrate and fix, you know, after that call. And then you're like, go and do it. And then they can start the process with the people that they're bringing in. And so you're paying it forward. Remember, this is a pay it forward business. Remember that all the time. It's a pay it forward business. If you're given a gift, I believe it's your responsibility to pay that gift forward. And we have 2. We have an opportunity for better health and we have an opportunity to make a little bit extra income. And my personal belief and mission statement is that I believe everybody deserves to make an extra few $100s a week. Everybody on the planet, I believe, deserves that. And for somebody like me, growing up with nothing, that's the difference between going to the movies with your brothers and getting an ice cream or not. That's the difference between a single mum going and getting their hair done, you know, and just doing something for themselves. So, you know, don't forget to love everybody. If they're doing Herbalife Nutrition as a distributor, VIP customer, or a client, if they're doing a shake a month, great. I want to give you an example of a shake a month, shall I? Oh, and the last one, so 2 posts a week on the client page, 2 posts a week on the coach page, 1 live, living, breathing human being on the call. Now, that doesn't have to be a sale. That's just, hi, I'm Buddy. It's really nice to meet you. I'm one of the coaches for the organization, whatever you call yourself. I just wanted to say hello. Your coach, the person you're putting on the 3-way call with, will know if it's appropriate to talk about the products or the business, or if it's just a bit of a meet and greet. That's why you learn from that person. You can start to develop your own sets of words and your own style that's unique to you. You don't have to sound like, have the same intonation and rhythm the way they speak. It's not about becoming a robot. It's about bringing yourself and your skills to the best business model on the planet Earth. But that's how you learn, okay? And then if you can't, so getting a living, breathing person on the call, and we've defined that. The last one is attempt to get someone on a shake every day. Not to make an ultimate pack sale, not to do any of that. Of course, you can do those things, but a person on a shake every day. Now, I'm going to give you a cool example. I want you to think about this for a second. If you got somebody on a shake, a tub of shake, every single day for 3 years, that's over 1,000 people. That's over 1,000 people on a shake. That's, as a supervisor, over $30,000 a month retail business. Now, and I would prefer to make it this way, when they love the products, love the shake, and then they become a VIP member at 25% off, that's still a $15,000 to $17,500 check. But I would prefer to make that because people are ordering their own products through their own portal, which then makes the personality of my income very different. I can be anywhere, do anything, and as long as they've got a Wi-Fi signal, I can post a good on you every single day on my page. You know what I mean? Hey, I'm walking in Hong Kong and Disneyland with Ralph. Check this out. You know what I mean? Getting our 20% in, walk around, running on rides. So and you can follow up 10,000 people with a post a day, because Buddy's posting, Mark's posting, Ralph's posting, Sandra's posting, you know, like everybody's doing that sort of stuff. You know, it's something to consider. That's a significant chunk. And imagine if everybody, and the other cool thing about that too, is you qualify for every VIP experience. You qualify for every holiday, doing all of this sort of stuff by just serving people with a shake. Now, here's the other part of what I went back to, those 4 steps. 2 posts, client page, 2 posts, coach page, 1 phone call with a living, breathing person, because that builds self-esteem and skill, okay? And then 1 person, your attempt is to get 1 person on a shake every single day. You wrap all of that up together, and you've got a recipe where you're starting to build a human being up. You're starting to move them forward, so they start getting more confident, and you can say, what result do I have to get you in order for you to refer 5 people to me, or you to be able to refer the people in your life to me? And then you can start doing that process with the people that want to. One thing that I will note right now too, guys, when you're building a business, don't get into management mode. You know, we all get so relieved that we've signed a person up, and then we put all our energy into trying to tell them what they should be doing. And we forget what we should be doing ourselves. Our responsibility, if even as experienced Herbalife operators on this call, we should be attempting to get someone on 3-way call every single day and somebody on a shake every single day. We're still going to be doing all the other activity that we're doing. It's something to add it in. And especially when you're downline, and we say downline, I use the term business partner. When your business partner is like, what should I do? You can suggest you just do what you're doing. There's much more power in let's than you should. Yeah, coming from an I place. This is what I do. You can do it too. Your responsibilities as a sponsor is to get someone registered, point them in the direction of their My Herbalife site, offer your services on a 3-way call to do those things, set them up with, for success. And then say, generally, you've got 90 days of, me 24/7. And then after that, I want you to be completely autonomous. When I got signed up by Matt, my sponsor, he didn't teach me anything. And remember, I respect this guy and I'm grateful for him. Didn't teach me anything, didn't show me anything, didn't tell me about STSs, nothing. And you know what the thing was? I never expected him to. I had no expectation that he would do anything for me because I signed an independent distributor business. I became an independent member in Herbalife. So I just assumed because it's a business that I should know what that business was about. So I went about making sure that I got to the meetings. I made sure that I understood that I could chunk time. I could go to more meetings in a shorter amount of time and learn more stuff. I could send more people to these events. We've got these online ones. There's no excuse not to be able to connect because you can jump on anywhere. And a lot of people are probably sitting in their cars or chasing around after their kids or cooking dinner. That's why they've got the cameras off, but they can still listen to the training as it's unfolding because they value, remember, A-grade players value education. So if you're on this call and you've got your cameras off, so what? You're on this call. Well done. Once again, pat yourself on the back. You care enough about yourself and your future to actually be on a call, as it's happening. And even listening to it later on, sometimes it's really important to be on there. Now, guys, getting people on a shake. This is a point that I forgot about and I'm rolling back to. Kind of like a Billy Connolly sketch, really. Coming back to getting someone on a shake. Your responsibility is to call them. This is what I say to my people. Your responsibility is to call them every single day for the first week until they have their wow shake experience.
Yes, Phil.
There is no way you're going to have somebody stay on the products and really love them and value them enough to have them every single day unless, this is how I say it to my guys, so I'll say it to you. I want them to want to have their shake rather than go down to Donut King and get a milkshake. I want it to be that good. And until, when you ask them, unless they go, oh my God, that was the best shake I've ever had in my life, they haven't had their wow shake yet. So you keep trying. So after 7 days, it doesn't happen. Normally within the 7 days, you'll be able to find something that works. But if it hasn't happened, keep going. Keep going until that experience happens. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a really, really important thing to do. So I think there's a lot more in terms of, what we could be talking about. But I think it might be of value to some of the people right now that we do a bit of a question. If you guys got any questions, we can do that. And that might sort of, spur things along. But it's also an opportunity. You've got somebody who's in the business, Mill75 member. I'm doing this full time, have done since after my first full year in the business. So out of the 8 years, 7 of them have been full time. And I haven't made a check less than $20,000 since 2013. So, it's good. It's a good place to be.
Absolutely amazing. Thanks so much, Bill. And yeah, definitely let's get some questions out while people are muting themselves. I had just a clarification. You were talking about getting people on a shake a day, and then over 3 years that worked out to about 1,000 people. What was what did you work out that would work out to as a retail business?
So if we're working at, let's say it's more, but let's say a $30 profit, it's about $35 profit. 1,000 people times 30 is $30,000.
Yeah, gotcha.
So significant, right?
Yeah.
And, it's a fantastic goal to have. If you're talking to 10 people a day, you're talking to 20 people a day, but you get them to love their shake and understand above everything else, whether they hang around the company, don't hang around the company, that they have a shake every single day. If I'd retained every single person that I've gotten on a shake or registered in the business, I would be making more than that figure that I just described.
Wow.
Because I've involved a lot of clients and a lot of coaches over my 8 years, a lot.
And we're talking just a shake.
Just a shake. So guys, remember, if you're in this forever, I had a guy that I was talking to today, he's been in the business for about 2 years and has finally realized that this is what he wants to do. Not in terms of going faster, but that he's going to stick around until it works. So in 5 years' time, what happens in 5 years' time? What happens if it's in 10 years' time that you don't recruit a soul, but all you do is get a whole bunch of people on the shake every single day that love it? You're going to have a significant income, more income than you could ever possibly, well, I could have ever possibly understood that I could earn in a month in 10 years from now.
Yeah.
But remember, it doesn't happen in 10 years. You'll still be earning a great income all the way up to that point. So remember, think about it a little bit differently, guys. There's so many different avenues. If getting clients is your strength, focus on that. But by doing that, you'll start to develop the skills to be able to do some extra stuff too. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. You know, I consider myself to be an average guy. I'm honest to a fault, sometimes probably too much. But, you know, it's, you know, you can have a talk like this and have 20, 50, 100, 500 people on a call, and you walk away, they walk away, and you've got 20, 50, 100, 500 different reputations. But all you can control is your character and your integrity. And so always doing things the right way. I used to say, just imagine if Mark Hughes or Jim Rohn was standing right beside you. Would you conduct yourself this way? Maybe think of a parent or somebody who you look up to in your life. If they're standing right next to you, would you behave in the way that you're just about to? So think about that in terms of the way you do your business. Will keep you really, really honest. So have we got any questions, guys? While you've got me on the call? Can be anything. If you've got nothing to hide, you hide nothing. So you can have a free hit.
Have we got anyone got questions?
I
Mark,
have a question.
Sandra.
Sure. Go,
Hello,
Sandra.
Phil.
Hello, how are you?
Pleasure to be on this call. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just a quick question. I also work in fitness industry, so I'm a Pilates instructor. And I just wondering how many of those personal trainers you recruited in your business? Only 2.
Out of 45. So
Out
my
of-
conversion rate was fantastic.
Are they still in the business?
One of them is.
One of them is, because I can see a lot of haters in fitness industry.
Great. Yes. So the fitness industry is incredibly tribal by nature. You're either CrossFit or you're wrong. You're either Pilates and there's nothing else. You know, you're a yoga person, or, you know, the different nutrition programs that are out there. You know, I might be on the Man Shake. I might be a metabolic precision person. It's very, very tribal, but let's take it back a step to what I was talking about before, that empathy side of things. Where are people? Usually when you're talking about somebody's body and somebody's health, it's the most exposing conversation that somebody can have. You know, it's where they feel the most vulnerable. So a lot of the times there's a lot of attitude, but if you've got somebody who's made that jump to try and serve people, try and help people by being in the fitness industry, then a lot of times they're having that tribal mentality, and they probably don't have the personal development to understand, because they probably worry about either supplementation in general or some other version of stuff. And that doesn't mean they're necessarily, if they are running a PT business, it doesn't necessarily mean they're good at business. And so understanding the concept of network marketing can be a little bit strong for people. So what you've got to, in my opinion, just my opinion, don't have to do anything in this business. My suggestion would be being really good at explaining, and this is something that I do, explaining, don't worry about the business and all the other stuff. As a personal trainer, this is just another income stream. All I'm asking is if you'd be interested in carrying a scientific-based, TGA-approved product line and being able to market that to your clients. Very, very simple. I take all of the, Herbalife and the 40 years and the multi-billion-dollar global nutrition giant, which we are, out of the conversation, and just simplify it. And then once people experience the products, really experience the products, have that wow shake, and understand that we're about whole food nutrition, that we are 20% exercise, 80% nutrition with the mindset component, then you're going to win somebody over. But remember, always bank on your reputation and your integrity. I didn't do that enough when I first started. You know me. I'm Sandra. I'm your Pilates instructor. I'm a person that you've seen in the fitness industry. I wouldn't get involved in anything that wasn't, completely above board. I've spent a long time searching for and researching, a product that I can market that's ethically sound, culturally sensitive, and environmentally conscious. And I've chosen to align myself with Herbalife Nutrition. Oh, by the way, did you know they've just released a vegan, like shake that has 20 grams of protein every serve? It's absolutely amazing. So I've just directed the conversation in a way that's very organic, speaks to what you're all about, what you believe, and then all you're doing is sharing your mission, your why with somebody else. I believe, and that's what I say, I believe that everybody has the ability to make an extra couple of $100 a week. Everybody deserves the right to do that. And I say exactly the same thing. It's the difference between going to the movies or getting your hair done, whatever it is.
So in other words, I'm talking about like fitness people for business. I'm not talking about clients. So if I have private class or whatever, if I'm running a fitness class, I'm usually branded. If I don't have a shirt, I have my bottle, I have everything. People know what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I can be myself in wherever I teach, I'm not going to teach. Like I'm not going to allow anyone to tell me what to do, what's wrong, what's not wrong. Well, so you approach them with nutrition, basically. If you have a conversation with another PT, another fitness professional, you would go that way, try the product, like.
Yeah, so I would actually go both. So I'm talking about, and sort of speaking to another fitness instructor or somebody in the health and fitness industry. I'm talking about who I choose to align myself with as a professional.
Okay.
I'm choosing to align myself as a professional with these products. I help my clients in my Pilates class, for example, like this would be you. I have, half a dozen clients on the products. I make an extra because of extra, whatever the dollar figure is, because of that. Could that be something that would help you? And then celebrate whatever discipline they're doing. CrossFit, that's amazing. Metabolic precision, that's incredible. I've heard really good things. So just supporting them and rather taking away something that I don't personally like in the fitness industry, which is that tribal nature, And when I first started, personal trainers would poo-poo, nutrient support. But then nowadays you see like fitness instructors all the time with their sups in their hand, taking pictures on Insta and doing all that sort of stuff. So knowing yourself like you clearly do, Sandra, is really, really important too. Remember, we are not this global nutrition giant. We are people that choose to align ourselves with something that's ethically sound, culturally sensitive, and environmentally, aware and conscious. Science-based product that does what it says it does. So, that's really important. I talk about that back room in the personal training room. I've seen bags of powder change hands with no label on the thing. People saying this is a good protein powder. This is a great pre-workout. I had a personal trainer that was importing a banned substance in terms of like a pre-workout called Jacked, it used to be called. And he was giving it, one of the guys that was going to be using it was going to be competing in the Commonwealth Games. I used to hold the pads for him and his twin brother. And I said, mate, you can't use that. Like you would actually be kicked out of your sport. So there's all of this stuff going around. I've even had one yoga girl go to another yoga girl. Here, this made me stay up vomiting last night. Do you want it? Like it was a product they got from the health food store. And the other girl go, sure, and take it. So I've seen like the wild, wild west in the fitness industry. I worked at a bodybuilding gym. If you want to learn about supplementation, hang around a bunch of people that are bodybuilders. And I had a guy that was an IFBB Mr. Australia telling me about the good side and the bad side of supplementation. It was a wonderful learning experience. So when somebody approached me about, and I talked about Herbalife with Matt, it's very normal to be on some form of nutrient support. Very normal to have a shake. So we can have answer to any issue. This is not a mere replacement. Any valid scientific whole food program has a liquid protein source in it, a liquid protein meal in their overall structure of the day. And so we can speak to vegetable-based people, vegan, people who want to choose, completely entirely organic, and they can get their protein content, which is very, very hard if you're purely just vegetable-based or vegan. And so we have a 20 gram serve of protein in, really 2 delicious flavors that you once again meets. And remember, we're some of the most sophisticated label readers in the planet in Australia, but we also happen to be the 3rd largest sports supplementation market in the world for such a little country. So we have a lot of these things that we can start to speak to. So going back to, to answer your question in a very, very long and complex way, it's something that you just establish your credibility with, why, and be able to articulate why you choose to align yourself with that, and then say, hey, listen, you can either just get an account and be able to serve your clients, but what I would suggest you do, I don't work with anybody because of the ethics that I just spoke about that doesn't consume or use them themselves. And I've said before, I don't care if Barack Obama come to me and said, hey, Phil, I want to sign up for Herbalife. If he wasn't prepared to use the products, I wouldn't sign him up. And those people who do know me on this call know that's true. I have no intention to pollute my organization with people that don't do what they say they're going to do.
100%.
Yeah. So I hope that kind of answers your question. So out of my whopping 45 trainers, 2 of them decided to join me. They both went active world team. One of them stayed in the business. One of them didn't. And it still breaks my heart to this day because they're both, especially they're both very, very nice and are very nice people. And it breaks my heart, mate. One of the things that I've written down here, the hardest thing that you will have to deal with in Herbalife is the emotional toll it can take on you. Now, remember, I'm being honest. This is not a negative. This is just something to be aware of. People think that they can personally develop their way past the issues in their life. That is correct to a point. So your income will never exceed your personal development. And this is a part that they don't really describe, and your self-worth and emotional intelligence. So your personal development, self-worth, and emotional intelligence. Because if you can't handle a no, if you can't, or if you get hurt feelings, you've got to be able to experience that hurt and be able to push forward anyway. That's the whole thing, because sometimes it can be our biggest challenge. So mentally we can overcome stuff, but spiritually sometimes we need to, and that's why we have the support of our community and the events, because remember, A-game players, value education, and that's what these do. Not only do they educate us on another set of words, you might use them, Sandra, you might not, but at least you're on here to maybe discover a version of them for yourself. Whereas some people at the exact same time who said they had none are watching a TV show while we're on this call. And then they'll wonder why it hasn't quite worked out for them. Remember, their business is their responsibility. I just want to go back really quickly to my sponsor, Matt. He has a PT studio at the basketball stadium where my daughters go to high school now.
Still,
And yes. Yeah.
But
He's been earning a check from me from the second month in the business. He's a millionaire team member. So my business is so strong close to me, and the volume that I do, especially at the time, was so significant that he qualified millionaire team. So I used to ring him up and say, by the way, you're a Get team member. Ring him up and say, oh, Matt, you're a millionaire team member. Just wanted to let you know. So that's my involvement. That's been my experience with my sponsor.
He wasn't doing any business at that time. Nothing.
No, and so he's a personal trainer and he's still embarrassed to talk about the business. So he does his minimum volume, just helps some clients in his own gym, but doesn't recruit anybody for the business, but makes a 6-figure income in royalties anyway.
You just shared your story and that's it.
Yep.
You should be proud.
Yeah,
oh my
exactly.
goodness. So
but
that's
remember,
what surprised me, how people don't understand network marketing and don't understand the industry in general. Sometimes I'm just, can't you say? Hello?
And
but
trying to make them see is the issue.
Yes.
Trying to make them see. So I want everybody, unless you're driving, please just put your hands together for a second. We're not going to pray or promise. That's something for you to do in the privacy of your own home. So I want you to push your right hand against your left as hard as you can. Hard as you can. Okay. Now I want you to put your left hand against your right hand as hard as you can. Go for it. Okay. Now, what should have happened when I said push your right hand against your left hand? This should have happened. Because when you push, you get resistance. So if you try and push your story and push your agenda onto people, they'll push back. But if you give them the information, hey man, I'm around, I'm ready when you're ready, you know, you're informed, I'll be consistent. You'll see me consistently using the products, consistently wearing the brand, and consistently doing what I've been doing. And then eventually, through consistency, they will, you know, possibly come up there and have a bit of a chat with you, a proper open-minded chat. So getting people to an event, remember, if you're getting people on a three-way call, if somebody like that got on a three-way call with me, I would just ask them a whole bunch of questions about them, what they're doing with their business. You know what I mean? And just find out as much as I can about them. And then say, thanks very much for your time. Hopefully we'll speak again. Now, if they like that experience, they're going to say, they're going to get off not knowing anything about you and go, geez, Sandra's a nice person. Because all you've done is be interested rather than interesting.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
That's what I do. Like, I'm just making connection with them. Like, I'm actually waiting them to approach me, but that's not going to happen, obviously, until I make the step. But I have great connections, and like you said, I'm first myself, then everything else, of course.
Exactly. All you've got and all you can take with you through life is your character and integrity. Anybody else got any questions?
Thank you so much, Phil.
No problem, Sandra. No problem at all.
I got one for you, Philly.
Sure, mate.
So, you know, when things were tough and that first early on when you first started and you heard all of that bad news, and you must have already had some kind of strong mindset happening. So it wasn't a Herbalife thing; it was a mindset thing. But what was it? What was it? And I know the answer, but I just want other people to hear it as well. Is what actually drove you through and said, okay, I need to do this no matter what?
Yeah. So for me, once again, it was my wife, it was my kids. What drove me through was my children. So I used to have this ritual that I would do every single day. I'd wake up and I'd feel like I needed to scream because I was in a lot of pain all the time. The second surgery, they removed the muscle here in my neck. So, and they exposed nerves and I've got horrible pain every single day. So I'd wake up, feel like screaming, and I'd spend about a minute, you know, feeling sorry for myself. I would, you know, purposely do that. Then I'd spend about 30 seconds, you know, like, you know, sort of having a bit of a whinge about my body and stuff like that. And then I made a promise to myself, like I've done for the rest of my life. As soon as my feet hit the ground, the side of my bed, I would just put one foot in front of the other and until the day was complete. Now, I used to do that as a trek leader. I've done that through my life when I've worn different hats. And I did the same thing through this last, you know, 8.5 year journey with my cancer, where it's come back. I thought it was gone, come back. I thought it was gone. And it's very, very scary every single time. So, you know, I also believe that the universe is a kind universe. So it's been a terrible gift, but it has been a gift. It's, you know, made me sort of be introspective. I've certainly developed my emotional intelligence. It's helped me with my mindfulness, you know, so I've grown through the challenges. And you talk about mindset. I was an abused kid growing up, violently, you know, physically and mentally, told I was worthless every single day. So one thing that I learned at Millionaire Team is I self-sabotaged my business because success was unfamiliar. And so I had to learn about my own worth, my own value. And so it's a very, very common story. And we don't understand why. We just think it's something that sort of happened just to a couple of people. It's something that happens to people who don't have self-worth or self-esteem. They're the ones you can compliment 1,000 times and it doesn't seem to land. The Buddhists call it hungry ghost syndrome. Hungry ghost. It means you can compliment, it just falls right through them. So, you know, it was like I went Millionaire Team and it was like, oh, what now? It was like, I wasn't happy. But now when I go President's Team, I'll go straight to Executive President's Team because I have President's Team in my organization. I'll be ready. And it will just go on and on and on from there. You know, I'll be willing to accept it. The reason I want to go President's Team is so I could be of service to 2 countries, Australia and New Zealand, on the S&P. I have context as a distributor. So I'll be able to provide that context in terms of working on qualifications for people in our region. And the other reason, really importantly, is I don't have to line up anymore. And they feed President's team at lunchtime. So there's a couple of really cool things. So first one's important. It's about service. And then I really don't like lining up. So I just figured I might become a Pres team member so I don't have to. So,
the major events you have to line up, let me tell
that's right. Yeah, unless you're VIP, but it's just, I like to keep it fun. So clearly I'm being a little bit, I'm just being me. I like to be a little bit abstract. I like being a square peg in a round hole. And the thing about Herbalife is you can be anything or anybody and fit. You've got a community that's truly welcoming, and it's just happy that you're doing what they're doing. And I've met some of the nicest people that I've ever met. And the cool thing about our opportunity too is we make fast friends because we're doing the same thing, wanting the same thing for our lives. And, I'm fortunate that I've spent quite a bit of time with, some of the guys on the call, like Mark and Buddy and Ralph. I remember in Hong Kong, we all sort of crammed in and squashed into a Tesla and drove over the other side of Hong Kong together in a very, 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 very fast Tesla ride when he got onto the freeway, if you guys remember. So, it was, getting yelled at in a Chinese restaurant when we're trying to order food too for the lunch the day before. So like you get all these really weird and funny experiences that we get to share. So guys, are there any other questions? I really want to make sure you guys have gotten value from this evening. We got any others?
Yes, I do.
Sure.
Yes, I have a question. Thank you so much for today's training. It was very inspiring and epic. I got one question actually.
Sure.
So with the clients follow-up, how do you deal with the fussy ones? Like the ones that you try, like they're very uncoachable, like you try to coach them, you try to mentor them, but they're just very fussy. Like how do you deal with these kind of people?
Okay, good question. I would start by saying differently today than when I first started. I'd probably be like, toughen up when I first started, but now it's more like immediately, if I'm having a big issue with somebody, I'll refer back to their goals. What were your goals again? Mm-hmm. So, if I was talking to Buddy and Buddy was, being a bit of a challenge, let's say a dick in this case, that's a technical term. I would just say, Buddy, just remind me again what our goals are. Our goals are, not his goals, what our goals are. And he'd be like, I'll put on 5 kilos of muscle. Based on what you're doing, do you think that, we're getting closer or further away from those goals? And they might go, about the same. It's about the same, something that you want to achieve, like is about the same kind of what you want to do. And what you're doing is asking a lot of questions. So you refer them back to their goals and then you ask them a lot of questions about them, about their life, about the people that in their life. And then eventually I go with the rule of 3. It's something that you do, something that I do with people often is you ask the same question 3 times in a conversation in different ways, you slip it in here and there, and eventually that person will inform you, sorry, I'm pointing down to where the question came from, inform you what's really going on. It might be they've had a bad day at work. It might be they're having problems with their partner. It might be that they jumped on the scales this morning, even though you said don't jump on the scales every day. Or it could just be that, they are not teachable or they are going to be a problem. And sorry, somebody's unmuted themselves. Yeah. So that they are not teachable. And one of the things that you can say eventually is this something that you still want to do? Is this a goal you still want to chase? And that's okay to say, because if they're not teachable, the most important person in this relationship, believe it or not, outside of the person you're trying to serve, is you, because you're not serving just that person. You have a lot of clients. And say, once again, if it's Buddy, I really care about you. I really want you to get these goals. I feel, though, that sometimes there's a bit of resistance, like, am I doing everything I'm supposed to do? So I'm still asking a question, right? Am I doing everything I'm supposed to do? Do you feel supported by me? And then be quiet and let them answer. And then you can start to work out at the end of the day whether or not you should be spending time with that person. And then it's back to, Buddy, mate, It's really nice chatting. You seem like you're going through a bit of a tough time. I just want you to know when you're ready, I'll be ready. When you're ready, I'll be ready. And then I've left him with his dignity intact, and you're actually can go and, insert your energy into some of your other customers and clients that are more receptive. I hope that kind of answers your question.
Yes, you definitely did. Thank you so much.
No worries, no worries. It's about looking after you too, remember, because you're doing this for the rest of your life. So you need to make sure that you keep your cup full, because if it's not, and you're giving from an empty cup, guess what? You're the one that's going to break down. But if you're full of love and full of information and education from all of these events and going to all the corporate events, then your cup will be, overflowing, and you'll be able to, give out a lot of love and service and not be depleted yourself. So you still have a lot for your loved ones at home, so on and so forth. Any other questions, guys? Stunned silence. All right.
It was awesome today, Phil, bro.
No worries. I didn't really go, in huge depth with my story. It's certainly pretty crazy and complex. It is something that has been my ups and downs, certainly been a challenge of mine, but remember, victims blame their conditions. So it's just something that, is part of my everyday, as is the use of Herbalife Nutrition. I've never missed a shake, not one day, ever. And I've even caught planes with President's team sitting up the front of the plane, and they've been fascinated by how regimented I am with my supplementation. I have them marked out for like every 8 hours or so, or every 6 hours or so. Like if I've got a 14-hour flight, you'll see me like they're sectioned out in little, my little tablet boxes. Like I'm on point, because, with things like cancer, for me, it's a battle for territory, and keeping myself well and, not immunocompromised with colds and stuff like that means that I can continue to have treatment and all of that, when sometimes when people get ill, they can't. So, I'm very, very aware. And so I feed my body like I'm an athlete. But if you look at my pictures on Facebook, I look back and I just, there's times when I'm really swollen in my face, and I got really big when they were pumping me full of cortisone, not good big, like big. And, like all of this, I was over medicated on opioid drugs for the first 4 years of my journey, which I didn't know. So like that was a significant challenge. Removing myself from all of that, being aware enough, having somebody listen to me. But I've been misdiagnosed twice during my journey. I should really be dead. But if I hadn't learned to advocate for myself, and I hadn't made the income I've been making with Herbalife, I couldn't go to, private specialists and pay the money, and private, people that do the scans and all that sort of stuff to actually be diagnosed properly, which is once again the difference between being here and not being here. And so they're all the little eccentricities that we don't really think about as being part of this wonderful business called Herbalife Nutrition. It's who my kids see me being. When people ask my children what I do, my dad helps people feel a bit better and make a bit extra money. Like that's a nice thing for your kids to say about you. Like, and so both of those describe service, right? And focusing on other people. And, and my youngest daughter seems to be very, very intrigued by joining me in the business at some point, which has not certainly been, pushed into it. It's just something that she's asked me a lot of questions about talks, and asked me a lot of questions about why we do what we do, how we do what we do. I think she's got a better understanding than some of my World Team members and Active World Team members, So said they see your actions, not your words. They feel your actions, not your words. And I'm a present father. I get to drop my children off at school. I get to pick them up. So kind of unique for a dad, I guess. I coach them in footy. They play AFL footy because we're down here in Melbourne, and, it's just really, really cool to be able to be around. So my daughters want them to be strong and independent of any partner that they might have in the future, and know that they can have anything if they work hard for it and are teachable. If they understand it's not just going to magic its way. But the thing is, my daughters, when I leave this world, are going to have a check that arrives every single month for the rest of their lives, and they'll be able to will it to their kids. So in one generation, I've been able to change the legacy of my working class family and all the issues that come with that. Like in my case, the violence and, the struggle that is what I'm accustomed to and know every day. And that challenge set me up to be able to fight the way I have with the diagnosis that I've been given. And I'm not defined by my diagnosis. It's just something that they informed me I had. And then I went about just living my life on my terms, as I choose to do in this business. So guys, I think I've taken up far too much of your time. Time is valuable. So thank you very much for yours this evening. Thanks for tuning in, whether it was for a little while or a long while. Thank you for the questions. I appreciate you all. I wish you love and happiness and blessings for the holiday season, however you celebrate it. You know, be close to your loved ones, hug them tightly. And hopefully I'll see you at a virtual event or another event in the near future. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you
Give
so
Carl
much.
and the girls a hug, bro.
I definitely will. I definitely will. And congratulations again on your moving up the marketing plan. Significant. Get to 5. Well done. Well done. Hopefully we'll all be changing pins next year, 2021.
100%. That'd be awesome.
It's on.
Thank
All
you.
right, guys.
Thank
Thanks
you,
so much.
Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Buddy, did you want to add anything else? Because I've got to get ready for the HOM. We all good?
No, all good, man. All good.
All right, guys. All the best.
See ya.
Have a good night and catch you on next week's call.
Love you guys.
That's all.
See ya. Bye.
Peace.